Hello, everybody. It's Mrs. Pound, and I am back with another video from Chapter 5 on genetics from BGAU Biology's 4th edition. We are studying Section 5A on genes, chromosomes, and cell division, and today we're going to talk about a special type of cell division called meiosis from subsection 5.3. So our objectives today will be to describe the function of meiosis, list and describe the phases of meiosis, and summarize the processes of spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So meiosis is a cell division in which the chromosome number is reduced from the diploid to the haploid state. Remember, in the diploid state, there is a copy of each chromosome, one from each parent. In the haploid state, you only have one copy of each chromosome. And remember, in humans, the diploid number is 46 and the haploid number is 23. And the purpose of this process is to produce reproductive cells that have a reduced chromosome number. Because if the chromosome number was not reduced, each time the number of chromosomes would double. And this could cause some problems because we've already talked about the fact that if a person has an extra 21st chromosome, they have Down syndrome. So having say 4 of every chromosome and then 8 and then more would cause problems, and there would just be way too many chromosomes after a while. So meiosis has very similar stage. So meiosis has very similar stages to mitosis. In fact, they have the same names, but it goes through it in a sense twice. So we have interphase, which is the same for mitosis and meiosis, prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1, and cytokinesis, and then a phase called interkinesis, followed by prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, and telophase 2, and cytokinesis. And so this is meiosis 2. And as we can see in the diagram, in meiosis 1, homologous chromosomes separate. So we can see here the homologous chromosomes actually lining up in the middle, and they are separated. So this is where actually we get the haploid number. But then meiosis 2 is where the sister chromatids are separated. So it's very similar to mitosis, and that this is where the duplicates are separated. So we can see that there are twice as many phases as mitosis. So because there's the meiosis 1 and the meiosis 2. And homologous pairs called tetrads, tetra meaning 4, separate during meiosis 1 to produce haploid cells. So this is the part, meiosis 1, that is very different from mitosis because this is where those homologous chromosomes, those tetrads for the number 4, are separated and we produce that haploid state. And you'll also notice that there are 4 haploid cells produced at the end. However, these two cells and these two cells are actually identical to one another, okay? But these two that are produced here are not identical to these two produced here. And what also happens is, remember, we get our half of our chromosomes from our mother and half from our father. Well, they get switched up and everything. So, like, say the purple ones are from the mother and the green ones are from the father. Well, they can line up in any way when this happens. So, there is a lot of variety there when these are separated in meiosis 1. So, like I said, there are 4 haploid cells produced. And those haploid cells are called gametes. A gamete is a haploid cell which can unite with another gamete to form a zygote. Now, for algae and fungi, the gametes all tend to be the same and they are usually mobile and they have a flagellum or cilia that can move. so that they can move in the water or whatever medium they are in, and they can move to unite. Now, humans, animals, and most plants form heterozygotes, and one of those heterozygotes is a sperm cell. And this is a gamete formed by a male, and it's often motile. It has a flagellum so that it can move. Now, the process that produces the sperm cell is spermatogenesis. Okay, Genesis meaning basically the beginning, to create. And spermatogenesis is the meiotic process of sperm formation. And during this process, it's straightforward meiosis 1 and 2, where there are 4 sperm cells created. And of the 4, 2 of them are identical to each other, as I pointed out at the end of meiosis 2. The other um, type of cell that is formed, the other heterogamy, is an ovum. This is a gamete formed by a female, usually non-motile and larger than a sperm. If the ovum moves, it's outside structures that move it. And the process is called oogenesis. This is the meiotic process that forms ova. So ovum is singular, ova is plural. This process is a little bit different than spermatogenesis. During meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, the cytoplasm is not split evenly. And so what are formed are there's an ovum formed, a cell that will develop into the ovum that takes most of the cytoplasm. And what's formed are polar bodies. So during the first, for after meiosis 1, the ova is partially formed, and then there is a polar body formed. Then those both split again during meiosis 2, forming 4 cells. But again, the ova takes most of the cytoplasm, so there is 1 ovum formed and 3 polar bodies. And what happens to those polar bodies is basically they are dissolved and absorbed. They just disappear. And so oogenesis only produces 1 ovum, where spermatogenesis produces 4 sperm cells. So that is a difference between those 2 processes. Now, when the ovum or ova, excuse me, yeah, ovum. When the ovum and the sperm come together, they form a zygote. And this is a diploid cell formed from the union of 2 haploid gametes. And you can see here, there's a zygote in the background, and you can see like a circle here and a circle there. Those are the nuclei, one from the ovum, one from the sperm, that are fusing together in this zygote that has formed from the process of fertilization. And this is the process of forming a zygote, the union of gametes. And you can see here also the difference. The sperm cell is much smaller than the egg cell because, like I said, the egg cell during oogenesis, the process does not split the cytoplasm evenly. So egg cells are much larger than sperm cells. In fact, many egg cells, you would be able to see they would be like a dot, like a period at the end of a sentence. You could actually see an egg cell with your bare eye. And this process of with fertilization is sexual reproduction. This is the union of a haploid gametes that results in a diploid zygote that develops into a new individual. So unlike asexual reproduction, where there's just one parent, sexual reproduction, there are 2 parents. And so what this does is this produces offspring that are not identical to either parent. And one of every homologous pair of chromosomes comes from each parent. So when we looked at those karyotypes the other day, uh, this chromosome pair here, 1 chromosome came from each parent. Therefore, the offspring have 1 chromosome of every pair from each parent. So, our objectives today were to describe the function of meiosis, list and describe the phases of meiosis, and summarize the processes of spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Now, don't forget your 5 questions and to keep watching to answer the 5 questions at the end of the video.